Okay, today I'm going to show you how to fillet a flounder, at least how I do it. So you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need a cutting board, something to sharpen your knives, fillet knives. There's two different ones here. This one, Bubba Blade, is a little bit stiffer. I'd rather use this more for something like a striper, something that's a little bit tougher on the outside. The Dexter stainless steel is probably my preferred knife just because of how flexible it is for doing flounder. This is just a simple sharpener, so just make sure your knife's sharp before you start. Okay, and the method I use, alright, so here's your flounder. I always have a hose near me just to wash my hands. So you have the top and the bottom, and you can see I already bled them. So bleeding the flounder or bleeding the fish is cutting the gills so that you can get the blood out of it, so the meat isn't as gamey. It'll be like a better tasty meat. Here's your bottom, there's your top. So all I do is simply, first thing I do is I lift up right here. Here's his top of his head and where his eyes are. I lift up his gill and I'll hold down and I'll make a cut right here. Try not to cut the belly, sometimes you get a little bit of it. Alright, and then I go right down the spine. So I feel for his spine. His spine starts right here where my finger is, and I will go right down the spine just like that. Okay, so there's two cuts. I'll flip it over and do the exact same thing on this side. Alright, I'll hold where his head is, lift up his little fin, make a cut behind the head. Alright, feel for the spine. The spine starts right here. I will just go right down the spine. Alright, the bottom definitely has the smaller fillets of the two. Doesn't really matter which side you start with. I'll start back over here on this side. So, to make it easy, when you start to pull up here, right behind his head, the meat actually starts coming off. And as long as you take the knife and go the same direction the bones are going, it'll just come right off. And this is probably the easiest way to get all the meat. So I'm pulling up as I just basically touch the meat with the tip of the knife. Okay. Some guys, if you watch like a meat on a party boat, they'll just go right down the whole fillet, but they won't get all the meat. Doing it this way, you will get all the meat. As long as you go from the head towards the tail, you will get just about all that meat off of there. Alright, make your incision back here. The rest of it's kind of a waste, so you can just kind of cut through, because this part here is there's really no meat to it. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll just kind of get it like that. Go like that, and there's one. Alright. Go over to this side, same thing. Once you get it started, so this one I cut it a little bit closer to the stomach than I probably should have. You'll see when it starts to come off. There you go. That's better. So this is a good view. You can see the bones are going this direction. As long as you cut in that direction, it comes right off. The knife goes through it like butter. Alright? And you won't get any bones in the fillet. And like I said, you try not to get any of the stomach contents. You can see I made that first cut a little too close to its head, but I made the adjustment coming through the fillet. When I'm done with this thing, it'll be like paper. You'll be able to see right through it. Okay, there's two. Flip them over, do the exact same thing. So it doesn't really matter which side you start with. You just got to get them started. Like I said, if you hold down, here I'll do it from this side because it's probably easier. This is the top. If you hold down here, I'm pushing down with my fingers and I'm pulling back with my thumb. I know the fish is sliding around a little bit on this cooler, but it would be better if you did it on a cutting board, you know, a bigger table. I'm doing this out at the boat. It's the same thing. Just go right down the bones. This way you won't get any bone in your fillet. Your fillets will actually look nice when you get to cook them. They won't be all chopped up. Okay, going a little further. Okay, there's number 3, and then you have the last one. Notice I still haven't even sharpened this blade yet. It really doesn't need it. The Dexter knives are usually pretty sharp, and they stay sharp. That's what I like about the stainless steel blades. I'm not trying to sell you on one of these, but they're not very expensive, and they seem to do a nice job. Same thing here. I cut it a little bit too high, so I'm just trying to go down so I don't get any of that stomach contents into the fillet. This is the smallest piece, which is always the hardest one to cut. There's not as much meat on that bottom piece. Okay, so now you can see, I mean, there's no meat left on that. When you do it this way, you get all the meat. Alright, so next thing I'll do is I'll just rinse my hands. I'll rinse off the knife, clean off the surface just to get any of the blood and guts, whatever else is left. Alright, and then all you have to do is just fillet it. So this is where I'll use an actual cutting board, okay? So, easiest way to do this is to put your fingernail right here at the back, push down. You can see how I'm just pushing down there. And if you take the knife and you can bend it, you can see how I'm pushing down. Basically, I'm bending it and pushing down at an angle. Not quite a 45, but down at a little bit of an angle, just to go right along that skin. Alright, and that'll take all the meat right off. Okay, so there's one. These were the 2 bottom ones, you can see with the white. Same thing, I'm just going to get kind of sawing back and forth. We'll clean it up after this. Okay, there's 2. Again, get all the meat off. This stuff down here towards the bottom, that's their fins. There's no meat on that. Alright, now the top of the fish has the most meat, so these are going to be your 2 biggest fillets. You can see the brown for the top. Notice I still did not sharpen this knife. If I wanted to put a little sharpening on it, I'm trying to do it quick enough so I'm not making this video too long, but if I give it a quick sharpening, it should slice right through this fillet. Yeah, no problem. Okay. So now you have your 4 fillets, and then all I'll do is I will just clean them up a little bit. Now, one trick with fish, I've heard this, I don't know how true it is, but I tend to do this and the fish come out tasting pretty well. I don't rinse them off until I get ready to cook them. So I leave them just the way they are. If I was going to freeze them, I'll rinse them off, vacuum seal them, you know, with like a food saver, and then I'll freeze them. And to get all the moisture out, I'll pat them dry with like a paper towel and get all the moisture out of there, and then freeze them, and they'll stay for a long time. But you can see this one here, I mean, I didn't even do anything to it, and that one looks good. There's like, you know, you might want to just clean up just some of the edges. So that's one. All right, same thing with this one. This one came off nice. It's got a couple little pieces here where it was like towards the fin, you know, you do it like that. There's a little bit of white right here. I would probably just cut that little bit out. Again, while you're doing it, it just makes it easier to do it right now. There's two. Now this was the bottom. The bottom is definitely does not have as much meat on it. Again, there's no bones in there. It's more or less just making it look pretty at this point. They're ready to cook, however you want to do them. Same thing with this guy. So this one this was the smallest one, had a little bit more of those ribs on the bottom. Just take that little bit off. Again, no bones. Actually, that might have got one little, that's like just a little piece. I'll take that off. Okay, so there you go. All right, so in the end, you got 4 fillets of a flounder. This flounder was 19¼ inches. So there's your 1 fillet, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. You can see these were the top of the fish, the darker meat. This is the bottom fish, the white meat. All right, and there you go. It's all ready to go. Hopefully you learned something with this. You know, all you have to do after this is just clean off your knife and sharpen it and be ready for the next time. Thanks for watching.